Hello everyone, congratulations. If you're seeing this video, it means that your CTE program is eligible for Perkins funding for fiscal year 2022. Perkins was formerly known as VITEA, so when we talk about VITEA funding or Perkins funding, we're talking about the same thing. The purpose of Perkins is to develop more fully the academic knowledge and technical and employability skills of secondary education students who are enrolled in CTE programs that are approved by the New York State Education Department. Your Perkins application for the upcoming school year is going to consist of two parts. It's going to be this Google form in front of you, and it's also going to consist of you submitting a spreadsheet to us. We've embedded a spreadsheet in the Google form, and if you scroll down, you'll see that the link is right here. You'll have an opportunity to upload this spreadsheet into the form as we go on. Please note that we are only accepting this particular spreadsheet that's embedded into the form. Please don't upload your own spreadsheet. The deadline for your application is Friday, May 14th. The CTE team will be reaching out to you between May 18th to May 20th for any reconciliations. Based on our Comprehensive Local Needs Assessment, or CLNA, our priority areas for CTE programs for the upcoming school year will focus on two things: work-based learning and equity and access for special populations of students. When we say special populations, we're referring to our students who are English language learners, or ELLs, multilingual learners, or MLLs, students with disabilities, or SWDs, and other special population group of students. Schools who received Perkins funding for last year should expect to receive a similar amount for the upcoming school year. If you're not sure how much funding you received last year, or you don't remember, we've provided the link for you that provides this information. If you click on this link, it'll take you to the school memorandum number 60 from last year. If you scroll all the way down, you'll see that there is a Perkins 5 allocation summary. You can click on that link to review how much funding your school received last year. You need to review the complete set of Perkins 5 guidelines for fiscal year 2022. The link for that is found right here. If you click on it, you'll receive this Word document, and it gives you an overview of Perkins, the funding criteria, the special priority projects, and other relevant information that you need to know. Make sure that you review this document. After you finish reviewing this document, what you're going to do is you're going to download the Perkins budget spreadsheet on your device. It is not accessible online. You must download this sheet onto your computer in order to input your expenses. So once you click on this link, it'll take you to this page right here where it says you must please download. So make sure you click on it and you actually download it onto your computer. This file, as you're seeing it right now, is view only as indicated here. So make sure you go to File, Download, and you're going to download the Excel sheet onto your actual computer. Once you go to your desktop, you'll notice that you can now open up this spreadsheet in order to fill it out. We're going to get to the spreadsheet in a couple of moments. After you've completed the Perkins budget spreadsheet, you need to upload it with this Google form application, and you're going to do so using question number 6 on this form. If your school has multiple NYSED approved CTE programs, simply list all your proposed expenses on this single spreadsheet. There's no need to submit multiple applications or multiple spreadsheets. If you have any questions, please reach out to the CTE team at perkinsgrant@strongschools.nyc. This application is due by close of business day, Friday, May 14th, 2021. Any delays in submitting your application will delay the district application overall. If you continue scrolling down this Google form, we ask you for the Perkins point of contact for your school. List your first and last name. Enter the email address for the Perkins point of contact, and please re-enter the email address. We ask this question because a lot of people tend to misspell their own email address or their names. Please select all programs for which you are requesting Perkins 5 funding. So if you are a school such as Abraham Lincoln and you are requesting funding for both programs, you would check both programs. If you are a school that has one CTE program, you select your single CTE program. If you are a school that has a multitude of CTE programs, you would select the various CTE programs. And I hope that this doesn't need to be said, but you're only selecting CTE programs that are actually in your school. You're not selecting another school's program. And as you can see, there's a plethora of various programs within New York City that are eligible for CTE funding for fiscal year 2022. If you scroll all the way down, you'll see question number 1 and number 2. Both relate to work-based learning. And we know that it may be a bit tedious and time-consuming to answer these questions, but the reasons why these questions are here on the Google form is because we want you to be very intentional about how you will be using your Perkins funding. Remember, the priority areas are work-based learning and equity and access for our special population of kids. So for the first couple of questions, please explain how you will be using your Perkins funding in order to promote work-based learning initiatives. After you've answered those questions, you'll now see a few questions that deal with equity and access. Again, we want you to be very intentional in how you're using your Perkins funding. So we'd like you to explain how you will use the funding to support and serve your students who are a part of special population groups. A big reason we're asking you to be intentional in your responses on this Google form is so that we can tie your responses to each budget line item you're going to be filling out on the spreadsheet. NYSED conducts line item due diligence, and our goal is to reduce the number of times we need to go back and forth about why certain expenses are being entered into the spreadsheet. Once you get to question number 6, it asks you to please upload your completed Perkins budget spreadsheet here. A link to the spreadsheet is found in the beginning of this application. So we've already downloaded this link. And once again, just as a reminder, if you scroll all the way up, you see that the link to that specific spreadsheet is found here. That's the link to the spreadsheet that you need to download onto your computer. So let's take a look at question number 6 in depth. We've already downloaded the spreadsheet onto our desktop right here. So once you open it up, it'll take you to the Perkins budget spreadsheet. There are several tabs listed at the bottom of the spreadsheet. You have the README instructions tab, the README sample expenses tab, the README budget codes tab, and then you have your expenses. This spreadsheet right here will be a part of the application process where you are expected to list all of your projected expenses for the upcoming school year, and that's the spreadsheet that you're supposed to upload. Let's look at the instructions. After you finish completing this spreadsheet, save it and upload it using the Perkins Google form that you've received. And as we just said, your Google form responses as well as this spreadsheet will be your application process. Make sure that you look at the README sample expenses tab to see how you are expected to enter in your expenses. Many of you may be familiar with filling out Perkins spreadsheets. It more or less looks similar to spreadsheets in the past. A few things are a little different. But just to give you an idea before you get started with the actual spreadsheet, this is how a sample spreadsheet looks. If you're having difficulty seeing the words and the cells in front of you, all you have to do is look at the bottom right of your screen. That's how my Excel is set up, and you can zoom in. Or you can also use the view option and you can zoom in. Let's go back to the README instructions. The budget codes for New York City and New York State are listed in the README Budget Codes tab for your reference. So if you click on this tab, you'll see the various line numbers or object codes and their budget categories. You are expected to fill out the categories on the spreadsheet. Column C has a number of different NYSED codes, and this is simply here for reference. there's no need for you to fill these codes out once you start doing your spreadsheet, because the spreadsheet that you're filling out already has this information embedded into it. Column D has per session rates. If you scroll all the way down, you'll see that there are various titles that are eligible to receive Perkins, as well as what the pay rates are. Again, these formulas are already embedded into the spreadsheet, but they're simply here for your reference. If you look at column E, you'll see that there are various examples of expenses that fall within these budget codes over here. So for example, if you wanted to know what are different types of printing supplies, we have examples over here listed. Flyers, posters for activities and events. What are various examples of testing materials? Let's say you're doing your automotive service excellence exam, or your NOCTI exam, or your precision exams, and so forth. Let's go back to the README instructions tab. Please complete your expenses using the Your Expenses tab. This is the only part of the spreadsheet that you are expected to complete. Every other tab is simply there for your reference. There's no need to edit or enter any information in any of the cells that are in black columns. Your totals are calculated automatically. So let's go to the Your Expenses sheet. You'll see that some columns are in green, and as you scroll over, some columns are in black. If the column is in black, that means that there's no need to enter any information there, because there are already embedded formulas that are pre-calculated. So there's no need to touch those columns. Let's go back to the README instructions tab. The first 10 rows, which are shaded gray, are to be used for per session expenses. You are not required to use all rows. Put in your total expenses by title and their activity, not by individual staff members. For example, if you are calculating per session expenses for 3 teachers who are under the teacher title to do data entry, you're going to consolidate the total hours of those 3 teachers. So let's take a look at the sample expenses budget sheet. Once again, you'll see that the first several rows are in gray. That's because these rows are simply for per session entries only. You're going to select your program name, and there's a drop-down list of different programs. You're going to select your CLNA priority, whether it's work-based learning or access and equity. Again, these categories point back to the Google form questions that you just answered. You're going to enter in the item description. And once again, these rows, which are in gray, are for your per session related expenses. And we want you to be very specific and descriptive in what you're typing in these cells. Please don't just put per session hours. We want you to put something like per session for data entry into the CTS tracking system of WBL activities and hours completed by students, or so forth. Once you scroll over, you are required to enter in the object code. So in this case, if you're budgeting for teacher expenses, you would select 3002, which is the line number or the budget code for teachers. If you're doing it for special education, you would of course select a different budget code. Once you get to column F, you'll see that the NICET code is automatically generated, so you don't need to do anything there. For quantity, you're going to put in the number of hours. So for all the per session hours, whether it's for teacher or supervisor, you're going to put in the number of hours here. The cost is already calculated. If I try to edit it, you'll see that this error message comes up. That's because the cost of per session is already embedded into these gray rows. Your subtotals are already determined as well. Once more, if I try to edit it, you see that this error message pops up. Once you scroll to the right, there's nothing to enter in here for the vendor column because these are only per session expenses. If I try to enter in something, once more, an error message will come up. Your totals will be here listed to the far right. Let's say you're in a situation where you're trying to budget for an F status teacher. You'd go to column E, you select F status, which would be 3009. Now for quantity, you're not going to put in the number of hours, you're going to put in the number of days. So let's say you expect a F status teacher to work 50 days out of the school year, you're going to put in the 50 right there. Once again, the cost is already embedded, your subtotal will be calculated. So per session hours for teachers, you put in hours. F status teacher, you're going to put in number of days. You're going to do this for all of your per session expenses. Let's say you have 10 different teachers. You don't need to list 10 different teacher expenses. You consolidate them according to job title. So whether they are teachers or F status, school secretary, or special education, or paras, and so forth. So you're going to consolidate the various expenses according to the job title. After you're finished with your per session expenses, you'll see that the columns are now white. The white columns are for all the other non-per session expenses, your instructional supplies, your tools, your equipment, your vendor services, everything else. After you're finished entering in your per session expenses according to your staff's job titles, you will then enter all the other expenses, your classroom supplies, your instructional supplies, your computer equipment, your tools, and so forth. You select the program, and once again, if you have several CTE programs, you'll select all the various CTE programs on this spreadsheet. There's no need to do multiple spreadsheets. You fill out whether or not you are trying to accomplish a priority related to work-based learning or equity and access. You're going to be very descriptive in what the supplies and items are that you're going to buy. So in this case, we see high definition laptops, which may be used by students needing visual aids, personal protective equipment, or project-based learning curriculum with specialized instructional support for students with disabilities. So be very, very descriptive. Please don't just put CTE supplies. You select the different object codes that correlate to whatever your item is. The NICED code will be generated automatically. For quantity, put in the number of items you expect to purchase. We are only accepting numbers in this column, so if you try to enter anything else, you will receive an error message. Now, for the costs, once again, that's going to be your responsibility. For the gray section, these were already embedded because there are specific concrete per session rates. For the white rows, however, you're going to have to enter in the cost on your own. The subtotals will be calculated automatically. Now, once you get to column J, you'll see that the title says name of vendor if non-contracted and more than $5,000. So if it's a non-contracted vendor, please enter in their names here. If you're debating between multiple different vendors, simply enter in their vendor names here as well. It's okay to enter in more than one if you have not determined which vendor you're going to use. The totals will be calculated automatically to the right, and if you scroll all the way to the bottom right of your screen, you'll see the total of all your expenses. Let's scroll back over to column B, where you have to select from the drop down and select your CTE program. Of course, it's very tedious to have to look through dozens and dozens of programs to select your program name over and over and over. A simple shortcut is you right click on your CTE program name, copy, highlight the cells below, right click again, paste, and voila, you have your CTE program listed many times below. So that's a neat little trick you can do instead of having to continuously click on the drop down box. After you're done with everything, what you're going to do is you're going to save the spreadsheet and save it to your desktop. Save the spreadsheet according to the name of your school. And that will complete that part of the application process. Going back to the Google form, question number 6 asks you to please upload your completed budget spreadsheet here. You click on Add File, click on Select Files from your device. Then you're going to select the spreadsheet that you just filled out and saved. Click on upload, and within a few seconds it should be uploaded. The very last question says, I confirm that this proposed budget was reviewed by the principal and assistant principal of operations or purchasing secretary at my school. Make sure that these individuals have reviewed your budget. You click yes, and then you click submit. That will conclude the application process. If you have any questions or concerns at any point of this process, once again, send all of your questions to perkinsgrant@strongschools.nyc, and a member of the CTE team will reach out to you. Thank you so much, and congratulations on being eligible to receive Perkins funding, and we look forward to working with you for the fiscal year 2022. Thank you.